It was a bright May morning in 2025 at Mar-a-Lago when Donald Trump made a decision that would haunt the rest of his life. Confident in his ability to dominate any political opponent, he personally picked up the phone and called IBRAHIM Traoré. "Ibrahim, my young friend," Trump began with his usual smugness. "How about we show the world what real presidential leadership looks like? A live debate. Just you and me." Traoré paused. At only 35, he had already learned to be cautious with American leaders, especially Trump. "What exactly do you want to debate, Mr. President?" he asked. "Africa, trade, development," Trump replied, waving off the complexities. "Stuff you Africans need to learn from us. It'll be educational for your people to see how the world really works." Ibrahim smiled, a calm but calculating smile. "An interesting proposal. I accept. But let's make it unscripted. No rehearsed questions, no guarded topics, just open conversation." Trump laughed. "Perfect. You'll see how a seasoned president handles real business. This will be fun." After hanging up, Trump turned to his aides. "I'm going to humiliate that African kid on global television. This will be a masterclass in leadership." Meanwhile, in Ouagadougou, President Traoré immediately called a closed-door meeting with his national security team. "Trump just gave us the opportunity of a lifetime," he said. "He completely underestimates us." "Opportunity, sir?" asked Dr. Alain Ouedraogo, one of his top advisors. "For 3 years," Ibrahim said, "we've been quietly tracking Trump's business dealings across Africa. The corruption, the shell companies, the militia funding. We've never used any of it. Until now." The room fell silent. The trap had been set. Inside a secure room in the presidential palace, Traoré began a week of intense preparation. His intelligence officers laid out a devastating report. "Mr. President," said Major Sermaru Ouedraogo, "we have documented $340 million in laundered funds linked to the Trump Organization between 2018 and 2022. The money moved through shell companies tied to African dictators." "Mining?" Ibrahim asked, eyes narrowing. "Illegal diamond and coltan operations in Congo, Chad, and Mali," Ouedraogo confirmed. "Bribes to officials funding for armed groups. We even have proof that Trump personally approved an operation in 2021 to destabilize the Malian government." Ibrahim's voice dropped to a chilling calm. "How many lives were lost?" Dr. Ouedraogo opened another file. "An estimated 2,300 civilians." Ibrahim took a deep breath. "Do we have proof? Signed documents, audio recordings, bank transfers? Everything has been verified by 3 independent intelligence agencies," Ouedraogo replied. While Ibrahim's team was building an airtight case, Trump was busy prepping for the debate by doing what he always did, boasting. "This'll be child's play," he told his staff. "A young African president versus a global icon. I'll wipe the floor with him." One aide hesitated. "Sir, President Traoré is known for being exceptionally prepared." Trump scoffed. "He's the president of a country nobody can even find on a map." But if Trump had known what Ibrahim was about to unleash, he never would have picked up the phone. On the evening of May 25th, the world tuned in. The event, hosted by CNN and moderated by Anderson Cooper, was being broadcast in 89 countries. At CNN's studio in Atlanta, Trump adjusted his iconic red tie, grinning confidently. In Burkina Faso, Ibrahim sat composed in his presidential office, a folder of secret documents within arm's reach. "Good evening, world," Anderson began. "Tonight, an unprecedented live debate between President Donald Trump and President Ibrahim Traoré. The topic, global leadership and African development." Trump leaned in first. "Africa needs to understand real development comes from aligning with countries like the United States. We've built the greatest economy on earth. Africa should learn from us." Anderson turned to Ibrahim. President Traoré. Ibrahim smiled slightly. Africa indeed has much to learn, including what not to do when it comes to business ethics. Trump laughed. You're young. You don't understand how the real world works. Business is about winning. Interesting, Ibrahim said. His tone cool, especially coming from someone who considers winning to include funding wars in Africa. Trump's laughter cut off instantly. Anderson blinked. President Traoré, are you making an allegation? Not an allegation, Ibrahim replied, calmly placing his hand on the folder. Evidence. Trump shifted in his seat. Mr. Trump, Ibrahim continued, would you care to explain the operation known as African Diamond? Trump paled. Trump's face went rigid. I don't know what you're talking about. Ibrahim lifted a document into frame. This is a memorandum dated March 15, 2021, bearing your signature, authorizing a $23 million payment to militias in Mali to secure mining operations. Shall I read it aloud? That's fake. Trump shouted, standing up in protest. It's been authenticated by 3 intelligence agencies, Ibrahim replied calmly, including the FBI, which curiously never investigated your African operations. Anderson Cooper glanced off screen, clearly shaken. President Traoré. Are you claiming President Trump funded militias in Mali? I'm not claiming, Ibrahim corrected. I'm presenting documented facts. Operation African Diamond directly led to 2,300 civilian deaths, entire villages burned, families displaced, children orphaned, and all to protect illegal mining profits for the Trump Organization. Photos began to flash on the screen. Aerial images of scorched earth, crying children, refugee camps, mass graves. Every life destroyed, Ibrahim said firmly, was a cost of your business strategy. Trump's arrogance had vanished. His voice trembled. This is a smear campaign. By who? Ibrahim asked. The orphans, the widows, the governments your operatives destabilized. I'm the President of the United States, Trump shouted. And I'm the President of the continent you tried to exploit, Ibrahim said, voice rising. I have a duty to defend my people from those who come masked as businessmen, but leave as warlords. The room went completely silent. Ibrahim leaned forward. Mr. Trump, since you deny African Diamond, let's discuss Operation Congo Red. Trump panicked. No, I won't be interrogated. You agreed to an open debate, Anderson Cooper reminded him. Ibrahim continued unfazed. $67 million laundered through shell companies tied to your business empire. The purpose? Funding illegal coltan extraction in Congo. This operation displaced 45,000 people, poisoned rivers, flattened entire communities, just so the Trump Organization could dominate 40% of the illegal coltan trade. He held up documents, signed by you, verified audio of you approving deals, transfers traced through Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, and Credit Suisse. The screens now showed a waterfall of damning evidence, contracts, wire transfers, maps, photos. Anderson Cooper, visibly rattled, asked, President Trump, do you deny this evidence? Trump began to visibly shake. This is an international conspiracy. Ibrahim actually chuckled. Mr. Trump, you created your own conspiracy. You left a paper trail so thick, we don't need to fabricate anything. Then came the final blow. But the most horrific piece of evidence, Ibrahim said, voice suddenly heavy, is the audio recording of you ordering the assassination of a community leader in Chad who opposed your mining operations. That's a lie, Trump cried. Now in full panic, we have a 47-minute audio tape, verified by forensic voice analysts. Would you like me to play it? Trump went completely still. Anderson Cooper's mouth parted, stunned. For the first time in his public life, Donald Trump had no answer. "I know what you're thinking, Mr. Trump," Ibrahim said coldly. "You're wondering how we got all this." He held up a final document. "Con Matsuda, the warlord you met in 2020, promised $50 million in exchange for protecting your interests in Chad. He's been working with us for 3 years. Every call, every deal, every bribe, recorded." Trump collapsed into his seat, defeated. He tried to reach for words, but none came. "You thought Africa was your playground," Ibrahim continued. "But we were watching your every step." Trump looked as if he might faint. You Africans are trying to blackmail me." "Blackmail?" Ibrahim echoed. "No, I'm not asking for anything. I'm giving the world what it deserves, the truth." Anderson Cooper, struggling to keep his composure, turned to Trump. "Sir, do you wish to respond to the charge that you financed war crimes?" "I don't have to answer anything," Trump barked. "You should," Ibrahim cut in, "because what you've done affects the lives of millions. This isn't just about Africa. This is about the integrity of global leadership." Then he produced a photo that made Trump's face turn white. Trump shaking hands with a notorious warlord. "How did you get this?" Trump whispered. "It's over," Ibrahim said softly. Trump sat frozen, his face drenched in sweat. The world was watching, and he had nowhere to run. "Mr. Trump," Ibrahim said with quiet resolve, "you gave me this platform. You wanted a debate. What you didn't realize is that justice was listening." Anderson Cooper turned toward the camera, visibly shaken. "Tonight's debate has taken an unexpected and explosive turn. These are serious allegations, with documented evidence." Within minutes, social media exploded. Hashtags like #TrumpCrimes, #IbrahimJustice, and #AfricaRises flooded the internet. Clips of Ibrahim's revelations spread like wildfire. Back in the White House, chaos erupted. Trump had locked himself in the Oval Office. His aides panicked. The vice president tried to assume command. "We need an official statement immediately," the chief of staff urged. "He's in shock," whispered another aide. Across Capitol Hill, the U.S. Congress called an emergency session. "The evidence presented by President Traoré demands immediate investigation," the Speaker of the House declared. "If true, these are crimes against humanity." The FBI quietly launched a criminal probe. One insider told CNN, "If this evidence checks out, and it looks like it will, we're looking at the biggest scandal in U.S. political history." The Trump Organization unraveled overnight. Banks froze accounts, credit lines were canceled, international business partners fled, real estate assets were seized as part of reparations. Forbes ran the headline, "The biggest political and financial collapse in American history." African nations, led by the African Union, demanded a tribunal. "America must not be allowed to escape justice," declared the AU chair. Africa unites in demand for accountability. Even international allies distanced themselves. "NATO is reconsidering US leadership," said the French president. "How do we follow a war criminal?" Russia and China offered Ibrahim security protection. "President Traoré has shown unparalleled courage," Putin stated. Ibrahim, once an obscure leader in West Africa, had become a global icon overnight, a symbol of justice, accountability, and moral strength. Meanwhile, Trump's world continued to collapse. His son Eric released a cold statement. "We disavow all criminal activity. We are shocked." Melania filed for divorce within days. "I didn't know who I married until Ibrahim Traoré exposed him," she said in a teary interview. Trump tried to flee the country, but his passport was confiscated. He's an extreme flight risk. A federal judge ruled. A week later, impeachment passed with record bipartisan support. "The evidence is irrefutable," said the Republican leader of the House. "We cannot defend crimes against humanity." The FBI arrested 12 federal officials implicated by Ibrahim, including a senator, a judge, and 3 senior FBI agents. All had received hush money from Trump's African operations. The Attorney General launched Operation Cleanup, based entirely on Ibrahim's evidence. Across Africa, people wept with joy. For the first time, the world had heard their cries for justice, and someone had answered. Class action lawsuits were filed, demanding trillions in reparations. Every widow, every orphan, every displaced family. "We want justice," said a human rights lawyer from Mali. The Trump name was toxic. Former allies vanished. Properties were auctioned, lawsuits piled high. And as the final blow, Trump was indicted on 347 federal charges, including crimes against humanity, conspiracy, financial fraud, and obstruction of justice. The Hague issued an international arrest warrant. Trump was now officially wanted for war crimes. IBRAHIM TRAORÉ, the man Trump once mocked as that African kid, was now standing before the United Nations General Assembly in Geneva, a year after the historic debate. Last year, he began. The world discovered that the leader of its most powerful country was a war criminal. Today, we prove that justice has no borders and no one is above the law. The chamber erupted in applause. Delegates wept. African representatives stood in tears. "The Trump case has set a precedent," said the UN chief prosecutor. "It changes everything. Impunity for world leaders is over." The International Criminal Tribunal expanded its authority, inspired by Ibrahim's courage. Back in Washington, a new president took office. In their inaugural address, they said, "Ibrahim Traoré saved American democracy. We owe him our future." Africa had changed too. "No more exploitation," the AU president declared. "Africa is no longer the prey. We are equal partners in the global future." Ibrahim created the Traoré Institute for International Justice, dedicated to training a new generation of fearless leaders. "Never again," he said at the launch ceremony, "will powerful men destroy innocent lives and hide behind borders." In a final interview, Ibrahim reflected Trump thought Africa was weak. He thought young leaders were naive. He learned the hard way that truth has no age limit, and justice is the most powerful force on earth. The man who tried to dominate the world had been brought to his knees by the one man he underestimated most. Justice delayed is not justice denied. When someone has the courage to act, and Ibrahim Traoré had acted with the whole world watching.